guys, welcome to video number 10. This video we're just going to be going over the basic chart layout and explaining what is what. So we're going to dive straight over to the computer and get straight into it. Okay guys, we are in here on a trading view chart, as you can see, and we're just going to go through everything from top to bottom, and we're going to cover what everything means inside this display. Now, up here in the top left-hand corner here, you'll see the currency pair that is currently being watched on the chart. Now, obviously, it's Australian dollar against the US dollar. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to set this to another pair, USD MXN. And we're going to do this for demonstration of the spread. We're going to cover the spread before we cover anything else because it was the topic we covered in the last video. So if we zoom in here, we're going to make these candles a little bit bigger. Turn that off auto so we can muck around with it a bit. And what we're going to do is we're going to make the spread visible. Now what you'll see here is you'll see two lines. Now the difference between these two lines is the spread. The reason we choose Mexican peso, US dollar against Mexican peso, is because it's got quite a high spread, so it's a lot easier to see on the chart. Now, as you can see here, you've got two different prices and they move together, more or less. There's a little bit of a float there, as I mentioned before, which is why they might not move exactly together, but they generally follow each other pretty well. Now, if you were going to enter a buy trade, you would enter using this top price here. And the trade would start in the negative until this part of the candle reaches here. And then you would be in the profit all the way until you hit your target. Let's say your target was up here somewhere. So the candle would have to go from here to here. That would soak up the spread before you would make any money yourself. Conversely, if you were in a short position, you would sell at this price here, but you would have to reach this price here before you would actually take your profit. So, for instance, if you started the trade here, this price would have to reach here before you would actually be in any profit, and this price would have to hit your target, which is why when you're shorting, it often looks like it's going past your target but not actually closing it. That is simply because this price here has to reach it, not this price here. Hopefully that's easy enough to understand. If that's not, you can always go back and watch it again and again. You might have to watch it 3 or 4 times to get an understanding of the spread. Now the two prices here are this price here and this price here. The spread 51.0, and these are your two prices, left and right, blue and red. Now this top one here, this one here in the blue, this is the higher of the two prices, and this one here, this is the lower of the two prices. That's your sell price, that's your buy price. Okay, on we go now. We'll go back to another currency here. We're going to go back to Australian dollar, US dollar. Now as you can see here in TradingView, you've got quite a lot of different ones that are exactly the same. We'll be going for FXCM source because all of these are from different sources. So we're going to go for FXCM because that's the broker that I use. So we'll go right there. Now we're going to turn off the spread lines. As you can see, it's a much tighter spread here, which is why we used the other example with the Mexican peso. Now we're going to turn those lines off. So now you've only got the one line. That's the bid or sell price, the one you can see, which is the lower of the two. This is the one you can see here. And that's always the one that the chart runs off of. Now, if we go along the top here, you'll see a series of numbers and letters here. You also see a drop box. Now, you'll see this on every platform. Some of them not quite as detailed with quite as many options as others. This one has all the options, but some don't have quite as many. They're not quite as comprehensive. Now, we're on 15M here, which stands for 15 minutes. That means that every candle here, now each one of these little rectangles you see, that is one candle. Each candle represents 15 minutes. Okay, if we were to click 5M, each candle would now represent 5 minutes. 1M would be 1 minute. 1H, now that means that each candle represents 1 hour. 4H means each candle represents 4 hours. D represents 1 day, so each candle is now representing 1 day. And we can go here and see more options. 1 week, 1 month. You can go right out to the longer term. Generally, I tend to trade between 15 minutes and 4 hours, depending on what I'm doing. So we'll go back to 15 minutes here. So now we're back to our each candle being 15 minutes. Next to that, you're going to see this candles menu here. And this basically gives you a variety of options for setting up your candles. You can have bars. Bars just look a little bit different, but they give you the same information. Hollow candles, Haikanashi. Haikanashi is a fancy candle design. They look a little different in the way that they are plotted, but for simplicity, we're just going to stick with basic candles. Now, don't worry about much of this. This is all stuff that you can muck around with in your own time. Indicators, if you want to put any indicators on your chart, which we're not going to go there at the moment. Practically all of this is irrelevant to you. Replay is if you want to back test. Now, back testing is handy if you want to go back and rewind the chart and test out a strategy you might have, but we're going to skip over that for now because you're probably not going to need to know about that initially. Now, over to here, you've got select layout. Now, you can choose whether you want to have 2 charts. You can choose whether you want to have 4 charts in vertical. There's a whole different array of settings. We're going to stick with 1, and then obviously you can set your different chart layouts, but this is all specific to TradingView. But all the basics we're going to cover here are basics that you'll see in every platform, not just TradingView. Now, on the right here, you'll see a scale, and this scale has a whole bunch of numbers. Now, as I mentioned in a previous video here, the scale is correlating to how much it would cost in currency B if you were to purchase currency A. So, for example, if you were to buy an Australian dollar with US dollars, it would cost you currently 0.72928,929 cents US. So not even $1 US would be required. Now, this line here obviously is where the chart is currently. You'll see that it's currently at 0.72928,930. Underneath that, you're going to see a timer. Now, this timer is counting down from 15 minutes because we're on a 15-minute chart, as you can see here. So we've got 14 minutes and 14 seconds until our next candle appears. Now, this is very important to keep an eye on, knowing when your next candle is going to appear. If we were to go then to 1 hour, we would see that we have 14 minutes to go still on this one as well, which means that the next hour is almost here. Now, we'll go back to 15 minutes again, just to keep everything simple. Now, down the bottom here, you're going to see a few icons. We're not going to go into that too much, but auto is a very handy one to use. This is toggle auto scale. So no matter where you move everything to, the scale is going to remain automatically adjusting. It's going to remain the same. But if you were to turn auto off, you could zoom right in like that and put it all out of kilter. But if you put it back on auto, it's going to keep its angles. Now, that is extremely important when you're interpreting the charts, because if these charts are stretched out flat like this and you were to wind it out, that makes it a lot harder to interpret trends and interpret everything else than if you just had it with its standard resolution. Okay, now down the bottom here, you're going to see a bunch of similar numbers to what you would see up the top here. You have 1D, 5D, 1M, 3M, 6M, YTD, 1 year, 5 year. Now what these do is these give you data for a selected period of time. Okay, so if you want to view 1 day of data, you click 1D, and this will put the chart to 1 minute, and it will give you 1 whole day worth of data. If you put it to 5D, that's going to give you 5 days of data. If you want to go YTD, that's going to run all the way back to the start of the year, year to date. If you want to do one whole year, it's going to take you back to this time last year. And if you click 5Y, that's going to take you back to 5 years ago, and so on and so forth. So you can view as much data as you want just using these quick little shortcuts down here. Now we're just going to go back to 15M. I'm not going to worry about that. And then, of course, along this side here, you have got all of your little additional features, which you can go through in your own time. You know, you can paint trend lines, and you can mark certain movements out. You can add rays, and you can add vertical lines and horizontal lines, and regression trend tools, and Fibonacci tools, GAN. There's all sorts of different features in here that you can play with. You can just do your general drawing. You can do text if you want to do some text on here. Oops, didn't mean to do that. There you go. You can adjust things if you want to mark certain points on the chart. There's a measuring tool if you want to measure pips, for instance, like that. You can zoom. There's a whole bunch of different things you can do here. Now, another important thing to keep in mind is the time along the bottom here. Now, you have to make sure that this is in line with your time zone, otherwise it can mess with you a little bit. Now, obviously, I'm in Western Australia, so my time here is UTC +8. That means that when I run my little cross here along this chart, you'll see down the bottom along the time scale, there's a little tag attached to it, and that tag is going to move and show the accurate time. So when I hold my cross here over this candle that's currently almost in a cross position, or doji as we call it, you can see that this candle started on the 16th of November 2020 at 10:45. So, and we've got 9 minutes now and 49 seconds to go. So that means that it is almost 11 o'clock. And obviously you can move all the way back along here, pick a random candle. You can see that this candle here that we're on now opened at 3:15 a.m. on the 12th of November 2020. That's pretty much all there is to it on a basic chart layout. Don't worry about any of these fancy little bits, numbers, etc. That's all stuff that you can learn as you go once you get a bit more comfortable with the layout and how everything operates. And obviously, if you want to change to another pair, you just click up here. Usually it's in the top left corner of any chart, and you just type in the currency pair you want. For example, US dollar, Swiss franc, and then choose the source you want. Now, if you're in a platform that is connected to your broker, it's going to automatically take the one that is connected to your broker. So you don't have to worry about selecting like this. I just don't have this account connected to my broker, so I have to manually pick it. So we just click that, and that brings us to USD Swiss franc. Okay, that's basic chart layouts for you. I'll see you in the next video.